Hello, my name's David. I'm an environment artist, and welcome to today's video. We are here in Empire of the Ants. Really interesting game that I had no idea existed until a very nice person in the comments just suggested it. And it came out in November 2024, so a little over a year old. So you play as the ants, or at least we play as this ant who oversees the whole operation, and it's pretty awesome. It really interesting from a graphical point of view, using Nanite and Lumen. It's an Unreal 5 title, so yeah, we're going to be looking at the nanite and the geometry basically today. Yeah, just checking out what is possible with good use of Unreal's technology and stuff. Not really going to be looking at gameplay in this one, although that is quite interesting. So before we get into that, though, I'd like to thank channel members. Thank you for supporting me. You growing group of very generous people. So it's much appreciated. It helps to pay for all these games I keep buying. And yeah, it's yeah, truly very generous of you. Thank you very much. So let's get into it. Really, I'm running with a camera mod for Unreal, the ultimate Unreal unlocker. So super useful. Let's just have a good old mooch around, and we'll be able to sort of look beneath the world and all that. But for now, we'll just potter on here. It's our little ant friend. Let's just we've got sort of, yep, that's a close in camera view, mid and far. Quite like the close-up view. But let's just get out of this little cave. I mean, you'll be noticing lots of detail here, won't you? That's the first thing that hits you. Good place to start in a cave, because you've got the light from outside coming in, hitting all of these shapes at just the right angle to sort of go, ooh, look at this. And then once you get out in the actual sunlight, I mean, that light bounce really starts making a big difference, doesn't it? Lumen is it's a tremendous piece of kit. Combined with nanite, we're getting stuff that has never been possible in games before. It fuzzes close to the camera, of course, because you've got to make some concessions. I mean, this being an ant's eye view, of course, we're very close to the ground as well. So, but let's look in the immediate foreground. You get a bit of fuzzing, because if you see the geometry, when you look at it this close, even though it's mega detailed, you can still catch it out with jaggy shapes and stuff. We're not down to the sub-centimeter density here at all. But let me just put reshade on, and I'll give you a look. I mean, that's our sort of depth buffer. But look, and if I put on edges as well, it's a kind of interesting view, isn't it, this one? So this cuts past that fuzz that we're getting in the diffuse. So you can see the really up close geometry there. I mean, and that's pretty accurate, I would imagine. I mean, just check out this here. I mean, this level of detail that we're getting these days is just unprecedented, isn't it? We've never ever been able to get this sort of detail. Let's put the camera mod on so we can go even closer down and look at these polys here. Nanite, of course, all nanite gubbins. But I mean, it's what are we? What sort of scale are we here? I reckon. I'm thinking that. I mean, that's an ant, isn't it? So, blimey. I mean, it depends how big your ant is. I mean, what's an ant? A centimeter. So, I guess this kind of is sub-centimeter resolution, isn't it? In a way, really, considering the size of the ant. I mean, what's this? We're down to millimeters, aren't we? And all right, so at the millimeter scale, we're quite jaggy, and if you were to get the diffuse textures without a fuzz here, it also would be pretty ugly, but just having this level is just amazing. It's really crazy. And nanite, I mean, it's a really interesting technology is Nanite. I think it's absolutely amazing. And let's just start with a caveat that I've never developed using Unreal. When I was at Rockstar, obviously using the Rage engine, and at different companies, Bizarre Creations, internal engine, Travel's Tales, internal engine at the time. So I've never professionally used Unreal. So everything I know about Unreal is from personal interest and, bringing in the concepts that every engine has, and considerations that you need to think about with every graphics engine. So I have high level concepts and the kind of broad workings of the Unreal Engine, which is all perfectly valid, even if I've never used it in a development sense. I like to keep abreast of all these technologies. But yeah, Nanite differs, as I understand it, in that it's like traditionally you would have your high res geometry, you'd have your LOD chain, and the computer's got to kind of decide what it's displaying at any one time, usually proximity based, but it's loading in whole objects, whole chunks, so chunks of terrain, uh, you know, LODs, big LODs that can maybe pop in or not, depending on your transitions. So it works on chunks of geometry, large pieces, and if one's half on, half off the screen, then the whole thing's getting loaded. Let's just switch those off so we can enjoy the beautiful visuals as I mooch around here, chatting away. And where Nanite differs is that it kind of has all the geometry in memory, but at any given point, like say here, it's deciding, right, what can I see? It's split down all the mesh, so it's virtualized it in a way into little clusters of there. I don't know whether they're exactly, but there are around 128 triangles per section. So that goes across everything you see here. Everything's been broken down into little sections of about 128 triangles, and that can be quite a small patch considering the polygon density we were just looking at. So really quite an efficient way. So it's looking at that level instead of whole object level, and then it's discarding everything that's not visible. So anything that's occluded, so everything behind that big tree stump in front of us, everything behind this mound here, everything in the cave, except for that tiny little gap you see there that looks black. Stuff there is getting rendered, but everything else that's occluded behind anything out of the view frustum, so behind us, it's just not getting like drawn, shaded, lit, all the fanciness applied to it. So it's just not getting drawn. And stuff that's distant, it's looking like how many pixels is it covering? And how many triangles does it need? Does it need 128 triangles to represent one pixel? I don't think so. So then it'll reduce it right down in terms of polygon density. So it's constantly making these decisions on the fly about what's visible, and if it's visible, how many triangles does it need to represent it? So lots of triangles up close, very few far away. And so it does all that. And you see the results, they're truly remarkable, aren't they? I mean, they're absolutely stunning. Even to an ant's eye view, I mean, it looks amazing. Yeah, this stuff is probably the least successful, where you've got a lot of ups and downs. And that's kind of like looking a bit like a bad tessellation, isn't it? But we can forgive it that. I mean, that's why the blur comes in, doesn't it? If you sort of start looking at that without that slight fuzz that they've put on it, you're like, it's looking nasty. But it works tremendously well for stuff like this. All of that stuff there. It's down to the. I mean, I think we're almost looking at grains of sand here, almost, aren't we? The size of stuff here. I mean, yeah, brilliant. I'm so happy that I've lived to see the day that we get this sort of stuff. And just as a side note, just check out that lovely, I mean, what looks like subsurface scattering through the ant's body there, doesn't it? That reddy orange sort of glow. It looks really nice. Well, let's put the camera mode on, then we can get closer to it there. I mean, this is an ant, don't forget. It's not a dog or a cat or a human's hair. This is an ant. So It's absolutely tiny. And check out its mandibles. And it's, oh, I saw its eyes a second there. Like, look at that. I've never seen that close on an ant. That's some nice modeling right there, isn't it? Isn't that amazing? So let's look at its eyes. Hello, my compound-eyed friend. Ooh. It's brilliant, isn't it? I mean, that's just so cool, isn't it? So while we're in this camera mode, let's just take a look at the level as a whole. This is the demo, by the way, which I've just finished, and I just bought the game because I was so impressed with it. The really nice, generous demo for free on Steam, and it's got this and another largish environment, which is quite a generous offering. So I was pleased to see that. But yeah, let's check out the makeup of the level. So you start to see the gaps as you rise up because they've been all over this level and they've looked at it and thought, right, can't see any of those gaps up there. And when you get to a certain point, it kind of blocks you. You can't just keep going on and on. So, stuff like that, in all likelihood, you won't be able to see it. Although I've not tried to catch it out. Maybe if you climb this rock, you might be able to see it. But I would hope not, because that sort of stuff is like environment breaking, isn't it? You don't want gaps like that to be accessible. But if you just drop down a bit, you know, you don't see it anymore, and it's all good. So these levels are all made up basically that way, so you just got to fill in the gaps really so that the player can't see out of the world really. And so let's plunge down and see what's underneath the world here, which is quite interesting, right? Maybe will one of these views just help us out a bit? I think that's probably quite instructive for us to see because it just makes all the mesh a bit clearer for us, doesn't it? But there's a lot of stuff under the world here, and especially as you get closer to the surface with the inserts. I mean, let's check this out here. We've got this rock. Let's just nip down below. It's quite hard to tell, isn't it? Tell you what, let's get that rid of that and put maybe mesh edges. Just finding the right viewpoint. I mean, see, there's a lot of stuff under the world, isn't there? Look at all that. Look at all that stuff. I mean, that's a lot of transparency. It's an awful lot of overdraw. They're just textures with transparent sections to get across this veg. But yeah, a lot of overdraw potentially in that sort of stuff. Lots of layers on layers and layers and stuff. Not what you usually want. Like I know Nanite does an amazing job, and right now Nanite is not drawing any of that stuff, but it's still in memory. Just because Nanite's trimming stuff out, it doesn't mean that the mesh isn't still in memory. So, it's all here still, but it's just not getting the more expensive operations performed on it, like the, materials and the lighting, stuff like that. So that's where Nanite saves you. It saves you massively on geometry. And then once it's decided what geometry you're having in the level, then you can allocate your resources then to materials and lighting, stuff like that. This wire frame sort of mode, well, it's mesh edge thing. It gives it a bit of a cell shaded look, doesn't it? Yeah, it's quite interesting, but it's good for picking out all of that sort of stuff. And you've got your outer layers up there, just big sections of stuff that you're filling around the world. So you're starting out with a backdrop, and then you're moving closer into the playable area, and the resolution will be scaled accordingly. So anything that works at this distance where you're in the playable area, and then yeah, just fill it out with your rock assets and stuff. Let's just take a little gander over in these ones here. There we go. You can see that. I mean, normally that would have been like just a low res asset that is okay from over there in the playable area. But with Nanite, you see you get really close to these things and all the detail is in there because that's what Nanite does. You get all this stuff. So you don't need to do any LODs or anything. It handles it itself, which I can certainly see the attraction of that, because maintaining a LOD chain is hard work, because every edit that you do, you know, it's got to then cascade down the LOD chain. Let's just switch off that and then carry on looking at the beautifulness of it all. Let's go into little ant's eye view again. Brilliant. But yeah, maintain a LOD chain. It's not straightforward, and it's just lots of problems waiting to happen, really, because you've got to iterate, haven't you? That's you've got to do that, but you want to get your LOD chain up and running. You've got to get a sense of how is the distant stuff performing in conjunction with the close-up stuff. You know, so you've got to maintain a LOD chain, and yeah, that can often break, and it takes work to maintain, or at least a decent, robust tool chain. Again, which can break, which you know, tool chains frequently break, whatever engine you're using. I find, at least with in-house engines, I'll say, I kind of you know, think Unreal is probably a bit more robust than that. I know Unity that I use in my day job, uh, you know, that's pretty robust, and yeah, it's all good. But yeah, in-house engines often need a fair bit of hand-holding and looking after. So that's great, isn't it? And of course, as an ant, you can go on any surface. You know, you can go upside down. You can really kind of get into the nooks and crannies and corners and stuff. It's brilliant. So yeah, having Unreal Nanite handle all that sort of stuff, I mean, that's amazing. It's really cool. I mean, obviously there's limits, of course, you know, but when you bring the high res geometry into Unreal, then it does a kind of scan thing on it, and you know, processes it all into a kind of hierarchy, and you know, does all this stuff basically. And then, you know, the idea is that then you don't have to do much with it, and it's not that straightforward. I know people who develop in Unreal. It's not a magic bullet for everything. There's limits, as there always is, but when you can come up with stuff like this, though, I mean, yeah, really amazing. Now, don't mind this sort of yellow patch here, because this is just part of the tutorial, and I switched off the UI, so, you know, got rid of all the stuff. But let's visit our insect friends, shall we? Hello, hello. I mean, the showing like hundreds of insect models running around through the world is really impressive. When you get into the battles and some of the different units start appearing, it's really impressive. Really, really is impressive. I mean, look, just the modeling on these insects is really good, and the animation is great. I mean, you know, I'm no animator, but I certainly know that animating something with 6 legs is no easy feat. You know, it makes animating a bipedal human seem relatively straightforward in some respects, you know, but animating all that stuff, and then you know, doing it at scale with all these different little creatures, yeah, it's really cool, and it's worth it buying the game just to sort of see all this stuff in action. It's really, really cool. Yeah, I love it. I love it. And all the surface mesh density is great, isn't it? All of this stuff. You've got all these little individually sort of modeled leaf bits here. Let's just have a look. Where are we, camera? Come on. We go. Let's pop mesh edges on. So, I mean, yeah, let's get the camera out as well. Really informative, this, isn't it? Let's clip through a bit. You know, they're all little mesh objects. You know, I mean, they're not holes or anything. They're just like you know, there's no thickness, as it were. But I mean, God, it's all there though, isn't it? I mean, wow. Check out that. I mean, I don't know how accurate that is. I mean, that looks like some insane poly density, and that seems unlikely to me. So I'm not sure what Reshade is doing there. How it's interpreting what Nanite's doing, I don't know. But I mean, look at the scale, right? Like ants is here, and if you go down there, I mean, that gets black with polygon density, and I can't. That just seems like an artifact to me. I would be very surprised if Nanite was doing that many polys. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe if you develop with Unreal, maybe let me know. I'd be fascinated to know. I mean, this sort of level is mind-boggling to me. Uh, Never mind whatever that is. But just all of these different things physically modeled. It's cool. But let's check out the ant as well. I mean, how good is that? Really nice topology as well, isn't it? It's really neat. It's really well modeled. It's really satisfying seeing stuff like this. It's just beautifully organized. Yeah, really nicely modeled stuff going on there. It's great, isn't it? Wow. And yeah, so let's just have a look around the world at large around us. Kind of beautiful colors going on, isn't there? It's just quite nice. But let's turn that off and probably leave most of it there, really. I think that we've covered what I wanted to sort of do as a little intro to this. Really just getting across what Nanite's doing and, what it can do for games, I suppose. Um, and yeah, as much as I dislike the fact that Unreal is, it's starting to get a monopoly stranglehold almost on the industry. And that makes me uneasy. I don't like it. I don't think monopolies are good for the consumer in the long run. They're, yeah, hopefully to be avoided, but Unreal, for good or bad, it's kind of going that way, isn't it? But, you've got to compare that to what we're getting with Unreal games. And when people know what they're doing, it's a paradigm shift in games development, I think. And I mean, you see that encouragingly, a lot of other developers are working on their own in-house versions of Nanite. So we're getting virtualized geometry systems, in various places. I mean, notably, Assassin's Creed Shadows is, basically their own version of Nanite, and it's doing the same sort of stuff. So, and the next frontier is this Nanite approach with foliage, which Unreal are already well into, aren't they? So we can expect that in The Witcher 4 and stuff, hopefully. And that's the next frontier for, yeah, I guess Ubisoft will probably be wanting to look into that because that's one of the things that's not included in that system, all the foliage and veg and things like that. So once we start getting virtualized geometry for veg, that's going to get really interesting. I guarantee you it's going to be awesome because instead of lots of alpha overdraw for veg, which is usually a big constraint. All that transparency seen through transparency when you look at leaves, trees, and stuff. Virtualized geometry is gonna largely do away with a lot of that, and that could free up a tremendous amount of resources. I think. I mean, depending on how much it's costing, nanite foliage sounds like a lot of geometry, but as you've seen here, we can have a lot of geometry immediately around us here, and it depends on how well it handles that virtualized geometry at distance. So, say you're looking at trees over there, if they're all actual mesh, how does it look when you're quite a way away? Because making it a really nice tree with millions of polys is relatively easy compared to making that same tree at a distance of, in a normal game, say 100 meters. How does it look when you've reduced it right down? Because, decimation can make even the most amazing looking models look a complete horrible mess if done badly. So it all depends on that. And I can't wait to sort of see what happens in that space. Really exciting. So let's just wander over here as our little ant, and I think I shall leave it there. An interesting little nanite discussion. And again, I'm no expert. This is just my understanding of it from working with different engines and, kind of having an idea of the graphics pipeline in this sort of stuff. And it's a fascinating subject. So, yeah, thanks for joining me on that one. And I'll see you again in another video soon. So take it easy. Bye.